Welcome back. Tonight, negotiations between the UAW and the big three automakers are making some progress. In an interview with the Associated Press, Union President Fains said negotiators will meet with General Motors tomorrow to discuss the company's counteroffer.
And just a few minutes ago, Stellantis said in a statement that they intend to pass their counteroffer to the UAW by the end of the week. Fains said the union is planning to strike any and all auto companies that do not have an agreement by that September 14th contract deadline.
Well, joining us now to discuss this is auto reporter Mike Martinez from the Automotive News and former UAW spokesperson Brian Rothenberg. Thank you both for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Mike, let's start with you. Does it feel like progress is being made here? We heard what Shana just said, that Stellantis is expected to make an offer by the end of the week. There's a meeting with the union and General Motors coming up. Does it feel like we have some progress here?
It does, and this is a good sign. I can also report, according to the sources I've spoken with, that the union has sent a counterproposal to Ford, so they are actively going back and forth on economic offers. That's a good sign. We still have 8-9 days left before this contract expires. This is what typically happens in negotiations. You pass proposals back and forth. It's a good thing that's happening.
Brian, what's your read on the situation? You were involved in this not too long ago. What do you think the status of negotiations are in these final days before that deadline?
Well, I sure was, and you guys and Mike would have been calling me constantly around this time last 4 years ago. So, this is what actually happens as you get down to brass tacks and negotiations. The counteroffers are coming in and the offers, and they're getting a little more serious. It's hard to predict until you see it. The question is, under this new sort of style of bargaining that the UAW has been doing, where it's been more public, will this become a public counteroffer and a public offer, or have they decided to get down to brass tacks and sort of, do things, update people, but at the same time try to do these things across the table and get things moving. Sometimes the theater of it, when it's public like this, can not only create expectations, but it can create delays in the negotiating process. So it'll be interesting to see how the next week plays out.
Do you feel like Fain is taking a little bit of a softer tone? We have seen him very vocal throughout this entire process, but we saw on Labor Day his comments that he made, and then in the article with the Associated Press, he's saying some compromises may have to be made here. Do you feel like that there is a little wiggle room and perhaps that Fain is starting to soften his stance a little bit?
Well, if you're the UAW president, you have to set a tone for what you want and what you can get. But you also understand strikes are not easy on families. They're not easy on a community. And so there's that, your membership, which ultimately makes these decisions, wants to see that you're making a good faith effort to try to get as much as you can for this. This was always going to be a good contract because of the timing, because of the profits they're making. The question is, how much can you get and how much do you push for? And, the other issue that's lurking in the background is there's a tipping point in negotiations, and Mike can tell you this, but, if you get too far, you won't see it now, but if the companies really feel like in the future when things aren't going as well, they're losing money, then suddenly a new product might not be located here and other things. So it's a very difficult, intricate, way of negotiating. And we'll just have to see how it plays out. I believe that UAW members should be happy that there's some movement, but we'll see. There could still be a strike.
Fain has said repeatedly that they are willing to strike not only at one company, but possibly even all three. And that's a move that has never been made before. Mike, do you think that is a genuine statement, knowing what's at stake? Do you think he's willing to take it that far, striking against all three?
I think he is willing to go that far. I don't think anybody wants a strike, including Fain and the rest of the UAW. It would hurt everybody. The auto workers who would be on strike, it would hurt suppliers, dealers, customers, and obviously the automakers. He's saying that now, again, to keep up appearances, to keep that hard line that he's towing. We are seeing movement on Ford. We could see movement on GM's Stellantis later this week. It may be a tough call to get deals with all three because he's not taking the traditional approach of picking an actual target company and focusing negotiations on them. So just from a logistics standpoint, 3 separate bargaining units all working at once, trying to get 3 separate deals may be tough before that deadline.
Yeah.
Mike, you mentioned it, and Brian, you did as well here, that a potential strike, the effect it could have on the union members. Can you kind of walk us through what that is like for the UAW members if they were to strike, what that looks like on a daily basis?
Well, when anybody that goes from their full salary to $500 a week plus health care, it's tough on you, and making your bills, stretching them out. The first 2 weeks it might be easier, but you start to feel that pain when those paychecks aren't coming in the same way that they used to, and it's a sacrifice. Now, I believe UAW members have been planning for this because they knew of the possibility for this, but it's a hardship, and it's heart-wrenching when you deal with families in this instance, especially families that have healthcare issues or other issues going on within the house. It's not an easy situation, but it does build power to have a strike and the right to strike.
Mike, if any of the demands are to be dropped or even compromised on, which do you think are the most likely?
Well, I'm wondering, when it comes to wages, the UAW's put out there they want that 40% wage increase. Ford, at least we know of as of now, is offering 15% total when you factor in bonuses through the life of the contract. You may see either side either move up or move down, meet in the middle somewhere there. Still not sure if that 32-hour work week that the union wants is something the automakers are willing to do. That maybe have to be something that they drop. Same with pensions. I'm not sure that's something the automakers are willing to give right now and add that structural costs onto their books. They could sweeten 401k deals. Maybe that's a compromise the union might have to make.
Well, we are just 8 days away from a deadline here between the UAW and the Big Three. Automotive news reporter Michael Martinez, thank you for joining us, as well as former UAW spokesperson Brian Rothenberg. Thanks again.